Don't be nervous. No, I'm just playing.
Cool. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the Awakened Soul Podcast. And you know I love it. I get excited when we have first-time guests in the building, and we have somebody who I met right around a year ago at the Melanin Festival last year, and that is Becky The Poet is in the building from the Unspoken Words podcast.
That's what's up. Becky good hair. Psych, retired that name. Let's go.
What's going on? So you we were talking a little bit before we started recording, but you survived the snowstorm, which is good.
Storm.
And you actually like it's so funny to see people like get creative in times like this. Like you and your weather reports were cracking me the fuck up.
Oh, really? Because I was running out of content. I was like, what the hell am I gonna do today? But it's so funny because it was on a whim. I was telling somebody I was gonna do a podcast outside in the snow, and they were like, "Oh, well, look at you, weather reporting lady," and I was like, "Oh, let's go!" So it was a fun run. It was just hard because if I was trying to do it by the hour,
yeah,
stupid weather.
Weather's fucking ridiculous, man. It's just crazy for people who don't believe that climate change is a thing. I just would like to see what their opinion is on a crazy snowstorm coming through Dallas. But you know, it is what it is. Well, Texas as a whole.
We had the microburst, we had the snowstorm, we had the tornado. I feel like Texas in general, we're just going through a little. Somebody hates us. Somebody's voodoo doll this whole city or state, whatever, you know.
Yeah. Hopefully not. Let's hope that it passes, and it seems like Texas is going through it. Louisiana, like every 3 years, goes through something fucking crazy. It's like
true.
It's just odd and strange. But so this is my 200th episode. I wanted to guess, and I wanted because through my years of doing this, I've like staying original as a creative. It can be difficult, right? It can be hard to stay motivated and everything else. And so I wanted to have a conversation about like stepping up your creativity, doing stuff outside the box, and what better person than to have like a multifaceted creative like yourself on as well. So like when you hear about that, like when you being a creative, right? It can be difficult, it can be tough. Like I look at it like luckily the way I set up my podcast is that life really creates my content. So I almost never run out of content, but like as like somebody who does do multiple things creatively, like how do you stay on top of just being a creative and trying new things and never really getting bored with it?
Honestly, I will say because I love YouTube, I am a candidate of YouTube University. I love watching other creatives like Peter McKinnon, Casey Neistat, like all them big creatives, and just watching their content and kind of just working from there. Like I can record my own videos, right? So it's one of those things. It's kind of just being inspired by other creatives to just want to create. I will say I have broke the bank to buy equipment to just do what they do, like that you see on YouTube University or in general. Especially like you said, you get inspired by life. I do too, but like for example, I'm also very extroverted, but also can be introverted at times. Like when my energy is running low. So like when I don't do anything in life, I don't get creative, and I'm just laying there like, what in the world? But then all of a sudden, I'm like, dude, I gotta do something. So the whole weather report during this crazy storm was on a whim, right? It started off as a podcast, as somebody threw the idea of like, be a weather woman. I was like, oh crap, because a lot of my friends know I will like do anything if it was like a dare. All right. If someone tells me to go do a podcast on frozen pool, I will do a podcast on a frozen pool and just hope that I don't fall in it. Right. Okay. Like it's just about taking risks, being risky, and kind of being that daredevil of fuck it, we'll do it. Right. Because if I don't do it now, someone else will, and I'll be like, damn, I was just going to hop on that frozen pool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny you mentioned like people like Peter McKinnon, because that is somebody who I watch as well. Like Everyday Dad, Matt. If you watch Peter McKinnon, you almost have to watch Maddie Hapoa too, because they're like connected. But I think for me, like I gotten into filmmaking and stuff, and literally it just happened from picking up a camera to record promos for my podcast, and then like just other stuff has come from it. But it staying motivated for me is like always trying new things, like never being afraid. And that doesn't mean everything's gonna work, but you may get inspiration for something else. Like everything kind of branches out to me, and so it's kind of easy to kind of stay on top of being creative and never really getting bored with it. But especially at the beginning of the pandemic, I went through like a serious creative depression where like I didn't know, I just not being able to go outside completely took away a lot of my like creative juices, and I had to find a different way to get that back.
That is true. I will say I was blessed to be having this pandemic just because I was like, oh yes, now I can rest. But then going through it longer than expected, I was like, crap, like what am I gonna do? Am I gonna be able to still record face-to-face interviews? Do I have to go virtual? Those were the questions I was asking myself. And I really hate virtual. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is my first virtual interview for someone else's podcast.
Wow.
Like deny. Part of it is because I have a horrible webcam on my laptop, and part of it doesn't work. And then it's another thing is am I still going to receive that one-on-one, face-to-face comedic reaction that I get like virtually, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was just being afraid of not being able to connect with my guests. For example, like you and I, like we've met like once or twice, but then I'm like, oh crap, is this going to be awkward? Are we going to connect? But like obviously right now we are connected. We are making like a conversation happen, right? It's not awkward. So I mean, we have to, as creatives, expand into that, but also learn how to adjust to what we know how to do.
For sure. It's like, yeah, the spaces has technology has bridged the gap of space and being not in the same city, not in the same state. And like, luckily, like I started using Skype early on in my podcasting because there were creators that I wanted to have conversation with that I knew I couldn't travel to, but it never, there's something special about being able to either do it in person or at least somebody that you've been around in person before, because then you kind of already know their energy. So it's not that filling out period of, all right, let me see how they're going to react to this. Like, especially being at the Melanin Festival, it was like seeing you there. It was like, I think I told you there, like, I'll have to have you on my show at some point because like your energy is crazy.
I think you saw the crazy side of me.
Exactly. I saw the crazy side first.
Don't see, like, if they're watching this podcast, they're probably like, who's this girl? But if you see me in person, it gets wild and crazy out here in these streets.
That is a fact. That is a fact. How do you balance it between, because like your podcast, you wouldn't necessarily always know how crazy you can get by listening to Unspoken Words, because you're a very insightful, and like you can tell that you think things out in your interviews, and like it's, at least it seems like you prepare very, very well for what conversation you want to have with each person. But like that other side of you, like, how do you balance between the two?
It's funny because I'm also a personal trainer besides the podcasting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm in my personal training, in my mind, in theory, I would have thought that I would have been like, let's fucking go, 1 rep, 2 rep. Like, I thought that was really gonna like be my personality at the time. But when I'm in the moment, I'm like, damn, it's serious, straight up serious. And so other creatives who are very goofy, who like have collabed with me, they're like, dude, you're not as goofy as you are on your interviews. And I think because having conversations with people, I tend to automatically tap into conversations about life and like just like personal things automatically, not trying to be like in anybody's business, but just like, do you know why the sky is blue? Right? Do you wonder why it is blue? And to balance that with like my crazy self, like I tell this all the time. When I first started this podcast, I drank before every episode to loosen up. But now before every episode, I don't drink anymore because it creates a different personality of myself, and it brings out the not so serious focused Becky. Like in all reality, in person, I am like a squirrel. Like every minute I'm like something new idea. My mom gets mad at me because she's like, you didn't let me finish to answer the first question you asked. I was like, well, I mean, I thought that was good enough. Next question. So I mean, I think in all reality, it's just once I hit record, it's all about like the person itself and all about being serious and tapping into what they want to talk about. And then once I hit like stop, like goofy ass Becky comes out, throw me a shot or two, like it's lit. Like the balance of the two is just when I know the camera's on, when I know it's business, then I know I have to get serious. When the camera's off, I can turn it off real quick. But it's just so hard sometimes to balance out when it comes down to business and family, friends. That's the only part I struggle with.
Mm-hmm. So, what has being a creative taught you about yourself? Because like for me, and I guess I'll expose myself first. Like I always said that I always describe myself as an introvert. I even would used to describe myself as an extreme introvert. But like the one thing I think being a creative and like having live shows and going to festivals and things has taught me is that I don't really know if I'm technically an introvert. I think me being an introvert was something that I used to use to guard myself. But
Mm-hmm.
at least being a creative now has taught me that like no, there's absolutely an extroverted side of me. What about you?
I've always thought I was extroverted, always, until I started podcasting. And when it came down to always talking about my business, I become introverted. So
Okay.
whenever I go to events with friends and I introduce myself, I don't introduce myself as Becky the Poet. I don't introduce myself as Becky like a podcast host of Unspoken Words podcast. Like there's some people who don't know who I am by name, right? But they always say I've seen you before. And so it's so weird because people are like, promote yourself, tell them that you're Becky the Poet, tell them you have a podcast. And I was like, man, like I don't like doing that in public.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn that when it comes down to business and promoting myself, I am introverted. And then when I am freely nilly and not worrying about my business, I am very extroverted. So like that's one thing about me. I had to learn how to like turn on and turn off because I was like, dude, you're at an event. You want to promote your podcast? Yes or no? Yes. You want more listeners? Do you want to talk to people about it? And if you love your shit, they just have to know about it. Like, get out there. It was kind of having to turn it on, but then I will say it doesn't last more than 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, I'm like, all right, let's go back, turn it off, and not introducing who myself is. And then the person I was talking to is like, yo, this is the poet that I just talked to. She has a podcast. So I was like, oh, cool. So I hope that I talk to one or two people to let them advertise for me because after a while, I'm done.
Yeah, I feel it. I get burnt out too. Like for example, after the Melanin Mena Festival, like legit, when I got back home after my flight back here from Dallas, I my body shut down for like 12. I had to. Like I did so much interaction and shit with people that I just didn't want to talk to or deal with anybody for a little while. So like, yeah, I have to kind of shut down for a minute afterwards. But I'm coming out of that a little
Well,
bit.
I'm pretty sure you're enjoying this pandemic full on.
And that's the funny thing. Like, for me, like much of my life didn't change from the pandemic, other than like going to festivals and stuff. But like I said, that first couple of months of it, it's just like it sucked. I had to get out of a bad mental space that I was in. I think more so for me, I got into it because my kids are really active kids and they always have events or like they're in clubs and stuff, and all that can't being canceled for them and just seeing them kind of being stuck in the house, it was terrible.
You had to
So
be a dad, bro.
yeah, gotta love it. Especially now that I have teenagers, which is think I'll
Ooh,
have
life of
yeah.
like confused and angry at my parents and also trying to do my own stuff, but also like, do I need my parents? I get it. I was in that mindset. I mean, I don't have kids, but I know how it was.
So to get back on the topic of innovating while being a creative, what do you think like is going to be the next innovation in kind of what like live streaming is taking up a huge step forward with like the ease of it, the importance of it. What do you think is going to be the next kind of just watching it and being in this for a while, the kind of next big innovative thing that we do?
Honestly, I know it's gonna sound like old school, but really, podcasting and YouTubing are the next like upcoming thing. Why? I just feel like one, we're in this pandemic still. Everybody's going through it. So interacting with people, it's not a thing like that anymore,
Mhm.
right? And then podcasting, you can do it at home. You can do it on your phone. I mean, there's apps like Anchor to make it easy for you just to hit record and just create this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Um, you can reach out to people, and if you have dope content, if you're funny, if you have a great like following and your friends are like in for it, like you have a support team, like you're all in with that. Everything is virtual now, and which is I really hate that. I really hate that it's all virtual because I live in an era of like events was the only way. Like if you had 100 people at your event, you're lit, right? If you had this performer come to your event, you're in there. But now it's like who you talk to on like Skype or Zoom or anything, and who you talk to like on Instagram Live. Everything is virtual, so podcasting will be the next best. Like it's gonna blow up like big time. Like the podcasting world, like they're already way behind now. To keep up now, like with everybody who's doing it at home and stuff, who's buying the equipment. I mean, they're making it cheaper and easier. They're creating mics and stuff pertaining to podcasting and stuff, and they're creating it to game streaming, like gaming like Twitch, streaming of like playing video games. That's a whole different ball game. Like I enjoy watching it, but it's a lifestyle that's growing. That people who are like we're living a life of playing games all day, their parents talking crap. Now it's making them buku money, you know, and it's that's where it's at. For like streaming, like Twitch, podcasting, and then Instagram Live, like it's gonna go to a whole different level. Like you see platforms upgrading real quick. You see everybody creating these softwares like on the fly. Like it's growing. Like this virtual stuff right here, it's there.
Yeah. Yeah. The virtual thing is like, and especially when you see people are like doing like Zoom calls where then they're having like breakout rooms and then coming back to the main, like it's really turning into like almost everything you can do at like a physical conference, you can do just within Zoom now. And stuff like that. And like like you pointed out good, like having mics and even cameras dedicated to streamers and podcasters, like the cost of entry is starting to come down so low that like you can do this at a really good quality level without spending very much money now, where it makes me feel like me spending like all this money on this studio is like, damn, if I would have just waited another year.
Right here. I'll tell you that. I bought a camera, I bought all this stuff, and I was like, oh, wow, you don't even do that anymore because people just do it on their phone. I was YouTubing something, and it was like, use your phone as a Zoom call camera. And I'm like, the hell?
Exactly. It's crazy like how much you can do with your phones now. Like I remember hell just being able to plug your phone up to like drop stuff from your computer into your phone when that was like a really big thing. Now you can actually like you said, Zoom call and Skype from it and everything is crazy. It's crazy.
What you got now? What you got for me now? Are we on the hot spot? Let's go.
So what I got for you now, what's the one thing you're challenging yourself with as a creative in 2021?
There's an airplane flying by, so if you hear it, it's airplane. And 3, 2, 1, it's gone. All right, cool. Damn, look at that dog. Real quick. But what I'm challenging myself with right now is I'm really trying to get into this virtual world of OBS, like these intense Zoom interviews, right? Now, I think what scares me the most is having to try something new. So face-to-face interviews are a lot easier than doing anything virtual because you go, you set up, boom, 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 hit record, turn on the lights, that's it. As for all this extra stuff, you have to have a separate software to create all these fancy stuff. And then, you know, me learning how to just use OBS or you learning how to do these virtual Zoom meet interviews is a challenge for me because I usually just have my audio guy. I'm like, Dennis, this is what I want. How do I do this? Cool. So I buy the equipment that he needs as well too. So it's like we have our own production team, but it's also like I'm learning how to use this just in case he's not around. But now that definitely we can't really get it often, like having to use a camera for Skype and stuff is like a whole new lesson for me, you know? And it's something I'm really not interested in doing. It's just something that I have to do because this is where the pandemic or the Pangea or the Panini has taken us.
Yeah. Yeah. What we've learned about like being a creative in 2021 because of the pandemic. I mean, well, 2020 because of being a pandemic, I think is going to change the whole way that we do things, like as far as like you said, virtually and everything. And for those who adapt and can get ahead of it, like which I'm trying to do with like, it's funny you brought up OBS because literally while I was waiting on you to be ready, I did like a test stream from OBS and Restream to Periscope, just to figure out like how to do it all and bring in the chat. Like, so I'm trying to learn how to do it myself, but it's like, yeah, it's so crazy like how it is fairly simple, but like how much you can do and how easy it is just like it's kind of overwhelming because it's like, all right, do I want to have the chat come in this way? Do I want to have it come in this? Why am I overthinking it? Like a year ago, I wouldn't have even probably been able to do any of this. So
Yeah, I know a lot of people are like, I'm watching and they're already creating a podcast on a whim, like Zoom and everything. I'm like, what in the world? Like, what YouTube video did you watch that I miss? Right? I'm watching every YouTube in a book, and I'm still not getting this right. You know.
yeah,
And one thing is, I'm learning is that I'm not that graphic designer. You
yeah,
know, I will never have that eye of saying this is perfect for myself. And I will never have that eye to say, like, I like this for myself. That's why, in general, as human beings, we pay other people to do it for us because our own work we don't love all the time. But if I told you, like, hey, yo, can you edit my vlog video for me? And you do it, I'm like, oh, shit, that shit is dope. But, like, it's some easy transition, some easy filters, some fixing, autocorrect. And I'm like, damn, I could have did this myself. But because you did it, I love it more because it's just not my field, right? Now, I would never be like, oh, hey, so and so, come run my podcast while I'm out for vacation. Like, if I saw that and I didn't like, and I was like, oh crap, this is like, why would I do that? This is my shit. Like, I know how to do this shit, so why would I pay for someone else to do it, right?
yeah.
So it's just not my field to do certain things, and I'm learning that, at YouTube or whatever, or bought all the equipment. If I don't use it, I just wasted that money for no reason.
That's true. Got to use it if you're gonna spend your own money on it. That's the one thing like that I like that I did. I didn't rent. Like I bought a lot of stuff. Is that like I can take this show on the road. It's mine. I know I can do it and execute it the same way every single time. I'm not relying on anybody else to do it. But like shit's tough, man. Shit's tough. But so you got a camera, get into video. What's like what do you like other than like live stream or anything? Is there anything else you want to do with video?
Um, oh my God, I want to do my own poetry videos,
Okay.
but what I've learned is shooting from the person being in front of the camera. You have to shoot this like 1,000 times, 1,000 takes, and I'm like, why in the world does it take so long to shoot a music video or a poetry video that's 2 minutes long?
Mm-hmm.
But so I want to go into the world of like videography, like like events, right? And just like editing it because right now I do the basics software of using iMovie, right? I
Okay.
haven't upgraded to the fancy stuff yet because I feel as though like if I did that, I'm not gonna be using it as much, right? Because I'm not a videographer, I'm not a photographer. I'm just gonna do the basic dissolve the transition in and call it a day.
Yeah.
But I mean, I want to shoot other videos for other people, but for right now, I think where it's at comfortably, I think me helping other people get started on their podcast or helping them with their journey of poetry, like I can do that with like my knowledge, kind of running workshops or telling somebody from A to Z how to do a podcast or how I do my interviews. So that's where I'm going to challenge myself at is helping other people, but doing it in a costly manner, not for free.
There you go. There you have it. Yeah, getting into videography, we can talk about that off air if you want anything. Like that's one thing I'm glad that I've gotten into, not just because it's profitable, but because like there's something. Everything that I do creatively, right, gives me a different type of joy. Like podcasting is like an outlet for me for things that are on my mind. Photography, I love bringing other people's like capturing their moments and then whatever, and then videography. I just feel like for me that's like the best form of like putting it all together, but on top of it, like getting that perfect camera angle or like multi-camera angles. Like I think all day about like how to set. I can go into a room and be like, all right, I can shoot it this way, and then I can have another camera over here that'll get it if they do this. Like so, it's a whole different side of me that I would have never thought was there, but it came from buying one camera and then it's turned into a whole production. So yeah. All right. So last thing before I let you go and get you on with your day, Unspoken Words podcast. A great show, like for to hear like insightful conversations and like you really dig deep in on Unspoken Words. If you, for the listeners, if they haven't ever heard it and they want to check you out, if you had to describe Unspoken Words in one sentence, what would it be?
is very, very, very personal. I take the story behind you, behind the name of your brand, and ask you tough questions to why you started, how, and not even talking about your business, just talking about your mindset behind it.
Yeah.
And I take poetry and I let that shit be known. Poetry's real out here, bro. That's it. That's my one sentence.
Yeah, are you so because I've never gotten to hear any of your poetry yet. That's the one thing I haven't got to hear from you. So if you start to do those videos, I need to see that. Yeah, because I love live poetry, live spoken word, all that stuff is like that's why I love DC so much because their scene of that at least before the pandemic was just beautiful, and I love getting into that type of stuff.
No, I'll send it your way.
All right, cool. Well, Becky, I want to thank you for your time, especially on my 200th episode. Thank you for coming
Let's
in, having fun.
Yo, I just want to say, keep it up, bro. Like 200, that's a fucking big milestone, bro. I just made it to 100, but I applaud you. I applaud your content. I applaud your quality. Everything is lit, bro. Keep it up. Keep being real. Keep being you. Keep being goofy. And I don't know what you be doing on Twitter, but it's funny.
Oh my god, Twitter me is like a whole different beast. Like it's so funny because the people who like listen to the podcast and then they follow me on Twitter, I always say, all right,
He's very
that awakened soul shit is not what you're gonna find on my Twitter, but it's different sides of you, man. You gotta embrace our duality. We all have it.
true.
All right, well, give them your social media. Let's get the hell up out of here.
All right. So my Instagram, personal Instagram is Becky the Poet, BeckyThePoet, Poet, whatever. And then my podcast Instagram is Unspoken Words Podcast. You can follow me on both, but I'm more interactive on my personal one. So, yep, that's what it is.
All right, make sure you guys go and check her out. This has been another episode, the 200th episode of the Awaken Soul podcast. We'll catch you lovely, beautiful people next week. Peace.
Peace out.